Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make your very own Frida brooch. She'll make a wonderful accessory to add to your jean jacket, your bags, or your jeans. This is going to be my very first YouTube video tutorial, and I'm a little nervous in putting this out there, but I do hope to encourage you to use crochet not only to make beautiful things, but to find joy in the process. If you have any suggestions for how I can improve my video tutorials, please leave your comment below. And if you find the video useful, please leave a like. Okay, let's get started. To make this, you will need finger weight yarn, also called size 1. And you'll need this in black, nude, red, and green. If you don't want to make the roses red, you can also use the colors I have listed here. The brand I used is Hobby's Rainbow Cotton 8-4. Next, you'll need a 1.5 millimeter crochet hook, fiber fill, permanent clear drying fabric glue, size 6 beads. I would suggest you use check beads because their sizing is more consistent. You'll also need sewing thread in either white or black, and you'll use this to sew the beads on. Scissors, needles. Keep in mind that one has to be small enough to go through your beads so you can thread them. A stitch marker, blush and a brush to apply it, safety pins, and one brooch pin 1 inch in size. If you would prefer to have the written instructions for this pattern, I will leave a link in the description below so you can purchase it. I will also leave timestamps in the description so that you can skip to whatever parts you need. Please keep in mind that this pattern is beginner friendly, but if you don't know how to make the basic stitches like single crochet, slip stitch, or magic circles, I will be building a playlist with tutorials on this. To get started, we'll make the face first. So you want to grab your nude color and you want to make a magic circle. For the first round, we'll make 6 single crochets into the magic circle. Once you've completed round 1, you want to pull the end to close your magic circle. Then, to continue, you want to make your next single crochet into the first single crochet of round 1. Once you've done that, you can proceed with round 2. If you're not too familiar with crochet terminology, INC stands for increase, which basically means that you'll be putting 2 single crochets in 1 single stitch. So I just made 1 single crochet in that stitch, and now I'm making an additional one. Then when I move to the next stitch, I'll make another increase. So I'll make 2 single crochets into this 1 single stitch. And this is how you increase your round from 6 stitches to 12, which is what you see in the brackets. That's how many stitches you should have at the end of the round. Okay, so we're getting to the end here of round 2. I'm going to move my stitch marker so I can start round 3. For round 3, you're going to make 1 single crochet and then increase in the next stitch. And you'll repeat that a total of 6 times. This will increase your stitch count from 12 to 18. Okay, we've come to the end of round 3, and once again, to move on to round 4, we'll move our stitch marker and make our first single crochet. Starting with this round, you'll see that I do something a little different with the increases. So the pattern should be single crochet 2, increase, and you do that 6 times. However, we want to avoid getting a hexagon shape. So in order to prevent that, every even round we will be splitting. So we'll start first with 1 single crochet instead of 2, and then we'll increase. Then we'll make the pattern 5 times, and we'll place that last single crochet that should have been at the start at the end. Now, if this doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. Just follow the pattern as it's stated at the top. I did just want to explain it in case you're wondering why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is actually a very neat trick if you're making crochet hats, for example, so you avoid getting that hexagon shape that doesn't look so nice. We've come to the end of round 4, and I'm making my final increase. And as you can see, after making this increase, I have space for 1 last single crochet. So I'll go ahead and make that single crochet so we can move on to round 5. This will be the last time I chime in here, for this part of the pattern at least, but I have added a little cue so you know when a new round is starting. I will show you the beginning part of each round and the end of it, but I did transition the middle part of it out. That way this video doesn't last 2 hours. But if you need to pause the video at any time, please go ahead and do so. Remember that I did leave timestamps in the description, so you can jump ahead or go back if you need to. So we're finishing up round 10 here, and that will conclude the front side of our face. So we can cut our yarn and then grab our black yarn and crochet the same pattern, which will be the back side of the head. Then we'll come together and I'll show you how to crochet them shut. Now that we've finished with the black side, we want to go ahead and attach it to the front side of the face. So we want to make sure that both wrong sides are facing each other. So as you can see, I'll show you, this is the wrong side, this is the right side. This is the wrong side, and this is the right side. So both wrong sides are going to be placed together. So we're going to go in through the back loop. I want to make sure you can see that here. So I'm going in through the back loop, and I'm going in through the back loop of the stitch for the front side of the face. If you were looking at it from the other side, it would be the back loop. So you're going to crochet both back loops together. It's harder to see on the black side. But yeah, you want to go in through the back loop only. Just like I did there. And we'll slip stitch it shut. Perfect. That's our first slip stitch. We're going to do that in the next stitch as well. Go in through the back loop and go in through the back loop of the other stitch. Now do keep in mind that both sides do have the same number of stitches, so as you're slip stitching them shut, they should be lining up evenly. You're going to repeat this all the way around until you have a small enough gap that you can stuff the face. I'm going to skip to that now so I can show you how to do that. Okay, so we're just about finished closing up the face, but we do want to stuff it first. So you want to go ahead and grab your fiber fill. You do also want to stuff the ends inside. You don't have to worry about weaving them in, but give them a quick pull just before you do, just to make sure everything is nice and tight. And do that both for the front side and the back side as well. I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up for you. So just tuck in your ends and you can begin stuffing it with fiber fill. Now, as you fill it up with fiberfill, I just want you to know that you don't want to put so much in it that it becomes a ball. You want it to be like a cute little macaroon in your hands. So once you've stuffed it enough, squish it down with your fingers so it's a little bit flat. And then you can go ahead and close it shut. I'm just about to place my last slip stitch. So you can go ahead and do that. And then you can cut your yarn and weave in this end. Now, in order to get a cleaner look, I would suggest that you use this as the top side of the face. So where you're going to weave in the end, where you just finished, that's going to be the top of the face. And it'll get covered by the hair later if you do this. Okay, now we get to continue with the details of the face, and we'll start off with the eyes. So once again, I do suggest that you make this the top of your face, this where you finished the slip stitches, and this the bottom of the face. So let's go ahead and mark our eyes, and to do that, you're going to start looking at round 1, which is right here, and then round 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're going to place the eyes between round 5 there and 6. You want the eyes to be slightly lower than the center. If you put them too high up, it'll look a little weird. So for that cute look, you want the eyes to be slightly lower than the center. And then for the left eye, count the rounds again. So you're placing the pin between round 5 and round 6. To make your eyes, you're going to go ahead and cut a strand of black yarn. And then you're going to wrap it around your fingers to form a circle. Now you're going to wrap the strand around in the circle a total of 4 times. And then you're going to slowly pull both ends to form a knot in the middle. And you can use your fingers to push that knot closer together, just like I'm doing here. And that's how you make the eye. So you want to make 2 of these in total, and then you'll sew them into the head. Now we're going to go ahead and weave the eyes through where we marked with the pins. When you weave in the second end, don't go in through the exact same spot as the first one. You want there to be a slight gap. That way when you pull from the back, the eye won't go through. And then once you're back here, you want to try and come out as close as possible to the other strand so you can tie them together. And then you can weave in your ends once you've done that. So I'll show you how to do this one eye, but the same process applies for the second one. And just one final tip I will add is when you tie it in the back, tie it tightly, because having that pull of the eye against the face makes the cheeks kind of raise up a little bit, so it gives it a cuter look. I've now threaded my red yarn and I'm about to make the lips, and you want to make the lips between round 7 and round 8. So I'm just placing a pin there so I know where to come out from. You can make the lips as wide as you want, but I personally went for a width of 1.5 stitches, and you'll see how I do that here. You'll notice that I slightly correct the lips with the needle so that it's more straight. If you do this, she'll have a more serious look. If you push it slightly down into a curve, she'll kind of look like she's smiling. So it's up to you what kind of look you're looking for. Lastly, tie the ends and weave them in. To make the nose, you're going to grab a strand of the nude colored yarn, and you're going to make the nose between round 3 and 4 of the face. I suggest you pin both the start and the end of the nose. I made mine a total of 2 stitches wide, but to get it centered, I have 1 stitch in the middle and half on the left and another half on the right side of it. But in total, it'll be 2 stitches wide. You'll want to weave your needle through to the opposite side of the nose so that you can wrap the nose around twice. When you do this, just be careful not to split your yarn because it will make the nose look slightly off. So just make sure you come out from one of the stitches there and not through the yarn of the nose. Now you can weave your needle through to the back and remember to come out as close as you can to the first end. Tie them off and then weave in your ends. For the eyebrows, I'm going to pin down where I want the eyebrows to end, and I want them to end right on the outside of the eye. So it's going to be on this round here, which would be between round 6 and 7. And you want the height to be between round 3 and 4. So just like that, you're going to sew 1 strand of black yarn straight across like that. Place your pins so you know where to come in and out from. You'll now thread your yarn back to the front, but first mark where the eyebrows will dip. So it's going to be pretty close to the center round, right there. Now you'll take your yarn and slip it underneath the eyebrows, and then pull down to create the dip of the eyebrows. Then weave your end back through where you came out from and bring it to the back. Lastly, weave in all your ends. You can shape your eyebrows a little bit with the tip of your needle and just push them up so they're a little bit more round and also a little looser. You don't want them to be super tight. So I'm just loosening them up here and pushing them upwards. Now moving on to the hair, you'll want to thread your 2 beads into your black yarn first. Then make your slip knot. Move your bead close to your hook and chain 1 over it. Then continue making the rest of your chains until you have 1 more to make. You're now going to make your last chain, but before you do so, bring your second bead close to your hook and make the chain over it. This completes the end of the chain. To continue to round 2, make sure you make the next stitch in the second chain from the hook. Once you get to the end of row 1, you will notice you have 1 chain remaining. You'll want to slip stitch into this chain and ignore it in row 2. This is done so the earring hangs similarly to the one on the opposite side. To start row 2, remember to chain 1 and then turn your work. You will chain 1 and turn after each row from now on. Remember, don't go into the slip stitch. You want to ignore that one. You'll go into the last single crochet that you made in the previous row. When you make your slip stitches, I would add that you don't make them too tight, as it will be hard to work back into them in the later rows. We've now come to the end of row 2. Finish off by making your last 2 slip stitches. The last stitch can be a little hard to see, so open up your work, as I had to do here, so you can see it a little better. It will be right here. Continuing now to row 3, you'll want to make 2 slip stitches, and you want to do that in the slip stitches of the previous round. If you want to turn your work and mark the stitches so you know where to go in, please do so. To finish row 3, make your last 2 slip stitches. As you can see, they are right here. You're going to go now and work back into the slip stitches of the previous row. Again, if it helps, turn your work to see where those stitches are and mark them. And with this last slip stitch of row 4, we are finished with the front of the hair. When you weave in your ends, weave the strand on the right up into the hair so the bead is more secure. Now for the back of the hair, you're going to repeat the pattern for the front of the hair with 2 exceptions. You will not use any beads, and you will chain 33 instead of 34. You won't have to make that extra slip stitch you made in row 1. I'll walk you through this first row. Go ahead and make your 33 chains now. To start row 1, single crochet in the second chain from the hook and continue with the pattern as stated. After making your last 2 single crochets, you will notice you have no remaining chains like you did for the front of the hair. You can now chain 1, turn, and continue the next 3 rows exactly as you did for the front of the hair. Just don't cut your yarn at the end of row 4. To join the hair, chain 1 on the back side of the hair. You'll be slip stitching both sides together, but before you do, you want to figure out which is the right side of the front of the hair. You'll know this because you'll see this is the back side of the last row, and this is the front side of the last row. That's going to be your right side. The opposite will be the wrong side. You'll want to place this side against the back of the hair. To start joining, you'll want to skip 2 stitches and go through the third. Line up the front of the hair so you are going through the same stitch. The reason why you are not slip stitching closer to the beads is so that the hair will not be tight around the face. Finish your last slip stitch just up until the curved part ends. You want to keep this part open so the hair isn't tight around the face. When you cut your yarn here, you may want to leave a longer end to sew this corner a bit more closed when you put the head on. I chose to do that with mine, and I'll show you how I did this after we sew the bead necklace. We want the inner strand of the necklace to be in line with the eyes. Thread your needle directly underneath and up to the top center of the head. Now take your opposite end and repeat the same thing. Try and come out as close as you can to the first strand so you can tie them together. When you tie the ends, be sure not to tie them too tight so the beads are stiff. You want to tie it so the beads can dangle. Much better. Now for the outer strand, you want to string 20 beads. This time you will thread your end slightly through the outer side of the first strand, like this. And then you'll repeat that for the opposite side. So thread your needle and go up to the top of the head. We'll now position the hair on the head. Your work is starting to look complete. Remember to place the side with the beads in the front. Once you like where it's at, pin it down. Now, do you remember how I told you we would use the ends of the hair to slightly sew the sides closed? I'm going to do that now. You don't need to do too much, just enough to get a snug fit. Once you're done, weave in both ends. For the opposite side, we will have to attach a strand of yarn, then repeat the same process. Grab your fabric glue and glue the hair down. I recommend leaving your pins until the glue sets. To make your flower, chain 11. Now, in the second chain from the hook, make a single crochet, right here. Then you'll want to continue to make single crochets down the chain. With a total of 10 single crochets, cut your yarn with a tail long enough to sew the flower closed. Roll this end of the flower in. When you roll it in, do so in a slight curve so the inner bud is higher than the outer layer. See how this part sticks out a little? To help you sew the flower closed, you could put a pin through it to hold it in place as I did. Use your end to sew it closed. Don't do this too tightly to avoid giving the flower a flat look. Just tight enough so it doesn't unravel. Lastly, don't forget to weave in your ends. And this is what it should look like at the end. I've gone ahead and made 2 of my leaves already. As you can see, these are them right here. We need a total of 3, so let's go ahead and make our last one. Start off with a slip knot, and then you're going to chain 5. Now, in the second chain from the hook, so not here, but the second one, you're going to go ahead and make a slip stitch. Continue by making 3 single crochets. To make the second stem, chain another 5. Now you're also going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, as you did with the previous stem. And single crochet 3. To finish off, you are going to slip stitch in the very first chain you made. Cut your yarn, leaving a tail end about this long. I'm going to go ahead and weave my other end in. Using my tail end, I'm going to help the leaf take on a more pronounced V shape. Something that looks more like this. So go ahead and thread your needle. Thread the end through the back. And then you'll want to bring it over the leaf. Just like this. Thread your end through to the back again. And this is where you'll want to pull tightly. The tighter that you pull, the greater of a V shape that you'll get. Tie a knot to secure your work. Once you've done this, you can weave in your end and cut your thread. You're almost done. High five! Position your leaves on the hair. You could try different arrangements or just do it exactly as I did. I'm placing mine in 3 sections evenly spaced. Then grab your flowers and pin everything down to facilitate gluing. Go ahead and glue your leaves first. Now, I would recommend that you don't glue the whole leaf down. Leave the top corner without glue so that it doesn't look too flat on the hair. Once you've glued the leaves down, glue down the flowers. And again, I do recommend that you leave things pinned down until the glue sets. This part is entirely optional. You could also just as easily make this into a keychain instead. I made it into a brooch. With a sturdy thread, sew the clasp in the back. I'm sure there's probably a nicer way to do this. If I figure one out, I'll be sure to share it. Part of the crochet life is that you're always learning. If you have any suggestions, let me know down in the comments. This is my absolute favorite part of these type of projects, adding the blush. Start with a light shade so you can see if you're happy with where you've placed it, and slowly build it up to a darker shade. Place a little on the nose too. Dun 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 dun! And we are done. This is what she looks like. I hope you enjoyed making this project with me.